Hello, Lawrence here. It's Tuesday, the 26th of September, and from where I'm speaking to you now, it is 10 to 1 in the morning. I was at work yesterday and today. I'm not at work tomorrow, Thursday or Friday, so I've got a bit of time off. I don't think I've yet told you about where I work, but I'll tell you that at a later date. Yes, it's dark. I was always a bit not too happy about speaking to you in this light, but Timid posted up a comment saying that she quite liked the dark stories. She quite liked me speaking in this light. She said it was like she was having a cosy chat with me in the dark. Not sure how having a cosy chat with me in the dark is desirable, but there you go. I suppose it's better than in the light, is what she was saying. No, I'm only joking. Right. Where were we last time? Well, I think we got to the stage where it was just before my stepfather actually moved in. If we can talk about this. This was in 1975. I even remember what day it was. It was a Friday. It was a Friday, and my mother used to go out to a local club. Where they had dances and they had a big band, like a jazz band type thing, and the big band music. They used to play all the Frank Sinatra and that kind of Perry Como type stuff, And she used to go to this club. It was there she met a man called John. Now John was somebody who I'd heard about. She talked about him often for a period of about a month. She was going out with John this, John that, John the other. I was quite intrigued as to what this John was like. I'd never met him. But anyway, it was a Friday, and it was a Friday night out. Now, on a Friday night, so I was only 11, so I still had a babysitter. It was the next door neighbour who was my babysitter. My mother used to pay her to come round and sit me on a Friday night. Now, I loved the next door neighbour. Her name was Deborah, and Deborah was somebody who I used to call her Debbie. Debbie was somebody who was, she used to let me stop up. She was not strict at all, and I loved Friday nights. Mainly because of the television. Friday nights we used to have, at 9 o'clock we used to have a thing called Armchair Thriller, which I quite liked. At 10 o'clock it was The Avengers. Now the Avengers, I have to tell you, The Avengers is my all-time favourite television programme. I love The Avengers. I still watch it now. I want to get them on DVD. I'm desperate to get the Avengers episodes on DVD, and I especially like the Diana Rigg ones, where Patrick Macnee and Diana Rigg, where she was Mrs. Peel. Marvellous television. Marvellous television. You can't beat it. The Avengers was used to be on a Friday night on ITV at 10 o'clock. So I used to watch that, and that was followed up by a horror film. Now, I've always liked the Hammer horror films. And you could guarantee Friday night about 11 o'clock, Hammer horror time. You used to get all the Peter Cushings and the Christopher Lees and the Draculas, the Frankensteins. All that sort of thing I loved. And Debbie used to let me stop up to watch them. I used to get a bit tired. By the time it got to midnight, my eyes were like lead weights, like, oh. But I used to stop up. She used to let me have what supper I wanted. She used to talk to me. And she didn't treat me like a child. That's what I liked about her. She treated me like an adult. And we got on very well, me and Debbie. I liked Debbie a lot. And unfortunately, she died at the age of 38 of breast cancer. And I went to the funeral, and it was very upsetting. But we'll talk about that later. Yes, it was a Friday night, and at about 12:30, we were coming to the end of the horror movie. Now, I believe the horror film was a film called The Creeping Flesh, with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. And we were just coming to the climax of that film, and my mother walked in, and behind her was this very smart looking gentleman with cropped black hair, black moustache, glasses, and he looked like Stanley Baker. Now, I don't know whether you know who Stanley Baker was. Do a Google after you've watched this. Stanley Baker was a British actor from the 1950s, 60s. Was in a lot of British films. That's what John looked like, Stanley Baker. And behind her was this Stanley Baker lookalike. And my mother said to me, hello, and she, said hello to Debbie, and had everything been all right, and, oh, you're still up, are you? Oh, what are you watching? Oh, my goodness, a horror movie. And we had all that business, and then she said, well, I'd like you to meet somebody. This is John. And I was in my pyjamas and my dressing gown. I just looked up and said, hello, and he went, hello, and he came up and shook me by the hand, and he shook Debbie by the hand. And he seemed perfectly charming. He wasn't anything what I thought he would look. I thought he'd look like Andy Williams. I'd got Andy Williams in my mind because my mother was a big Andy Williams fan at the time. And I thought he'd be an Andy Williams lookalike, but he was nothing like him. A little bit rough around the edges. And I wasn't overly keen at first, to be honest. He seemed perfectly charming and nice and, a bit quiet perhaps. But we came to the end of the horror movie, and I went to bed. And I kissed Debbie and my mother good night. I said good night to John. And I went upstairs to bed, and about half an hour later, after my mother had said good night to Debbie and she'd gone back home next door, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and lo and behold, I thought, oh, John's stopping the night. I didn't think any more of it and went to sleep. And the next morning I got up, went downstairs, and John was sat in the living room reading a newspaper. And it was odd. I mean, suddenly to have this man in the house. The only man I'd known previously was my father, and this man was a stranger. It's difficult, it's not easy to suddenly be presented with this new person who you know nothing about, and who is there primarily not for you. He's there for my mother. And I think this is a problem that presents itself to just about every stepchild who's ever lived. They aren't there for you, they're there for your mother. That, I think, is one of the main problems, that straight away it's a problem for the child. Anyway, I've got to come to the end. We're coming to the end of the broadcast. I'll speak to you later about this. In the meantime, it's good night from me. Good night.